My next sew along with me today is going to feature this Midway Jacket pattern. Hello and welcome back to my kitchen, which is also my sewing studio. It is currently nighttime, but I want to get a head start on cutting out my fabric for the Midway jacket I'm going to make. I've been kindly gifted this and I really want to test out the pattern with this fabric I've had in my stash for a handful of months. I think I thrifted this back in the spring. It's this really beautiful canvas cotton, and I thought when I bought this what I was going to do was make overalls with it, but upon further inspection and just the bold choice of pattern, I think I would wear it more as a jacket, and I want it to be sort of like a chore coat, overcoat, shacket, if you will. I knew once I saw the Midway jacket that this is the fabric I wanted to use. I am going to use my projector again to try and cut out the pieces, so I will take you along on that journey. Sometimes with bigger projects like this that are a bit more committed, a bit more complex, I like to do planning. So there's a lot of like brain power that's going into a project like this ahead of time. I like to think about the fabric, I like to think about the placements, I like to think about the notions, and it's just a bigger dedicated project. Again, this is why I thrift my fabric, because this cost me probably somewhere between $5 to $10. I can't really remember. So I'm not like totally bummed if it doesn't work out, but I do really love this fabric and I want it to work well. So I've done some planning for this project. Sometimes I'll take a picture of the fabric and a picture of the pattern and I'll put it into ChatGPT and make it show me what it will look like with that fabric, which is kind of cool. But more often than that, what I'll also do is do a illustration of the pattern. This is kind of the vibe I'm going for with this shacket Midway jacket, is having a bold kind of color, circular options in the jacket while the cream color of the fabric takes over. But I'm thinking I might use like a gold thread so that it also has a pop of color. I may also default to just a taupe top stitch. I'm not sure yet. TBD. Let's just dive in and get started on setting up the projector and cutting out the pieces. Oh yeah, did you notice that I am still wearing my Saga sweater that I sewed in my last sew with me? This is basically how I set my projector up, which maybe takes me like 10 minutes to set up total, but I put it on a tripod on my island and project it down on the ground. And then I use my laptop to open up the mirrored image on the projector. Next up, I'm going to basically use the pattern projector software to calibrate my cutting mat, which I have on the ground here. There are really good tutorials online of how to set up your project on the projector and with the software, and I'm not doing a good job at explaining the ins and outs of the software, so I really highly suggest you go find one of these good tutorials that I also watched a bunch before I set this up. Just so you have reference, this is what my projected surface looks like. I'm gonna lay this fabric out so that I can cut my sleeves first. Everything looks pretty good. I just thought of something. I think I need to be particular about where I'm placing the circles based on the drawing that I made. Or do I just go for it? Oh my gosh, I just don't know. I think I'm gonna be a bit strategic, but also just a bit like wing it and go for it. Cutting on the projector, when you have the ability to turn the layers off, makes a huge difference. So the ability to just know that I'm cutting at my size and the layers are all off for the rest makes it so much easier to see the lines on the projector. Hi. Okay, sleeves are cut. Notches are in. Gosh, I hate interfacing. Okay, it's 10 after 9. I'm gonna call it a night. I finished cutting everything out. I don't know why I hate cutting fusing. I hate putting it on, I hate dealing with it, but anyways, we did it. I would say from setup to cut out, it took me about an hour and a half with the projector, which is really still so great. And I think that I will cut that down as I get more used to using it. So I'm sure it will be even faster with certain patterns. This one was a little bit more complicated than say the Saga sweater. Still such a game changer. Like I'm really obsessed with just setting up the projector and cutting it out right away and not having to print, tape, trace, then cut out. I also feel like my cutting is more accurate because I can actually like lay the fabric still on top of the projected lines and see if it's cut properly, and I feel like it's just more accurate. So really big game changer with the projector. These are all my pieces. I kind of just went for it with the pattern, which I don't know, we're gonna see how it turns out. I think you could be strategic about what you're placing where with the panels, but I just couldn't use the brain power to do that at the moment. I think I mentioned when I was cutting, but I cut out a size F. So I took my measurements for this pattern and I was an E as a size, but I think I want it a bit oversized. So I went up a size and we'll see if that plays out. The other thing I did want to say and mention is that I kind of keep these like different levels of scraps from my projects. I'm a little bit crazy when it comes to this. I've heard other sewists and people that have a good rule of thumb where if it's smaller than the palm of your hand, get rid of it. If it's not, you can keep it for like patchwork. I tend to keep everything mostly. So unless it's like really granular things or threads, I'll throw it out. But I do keep scrap fabric that I cut off from trimmings, and I actually keep this in a garbage bag in my stash closet with all of my projects. So I try not to throw anything out, which again might sound a little crazy to some people. This is why I'm really careful about like what fabric I bring in, and I don't have a huge overwhelming stash at home. I try and work with what I have and go thrifting for what I need. I've got this other pile of bigger pieces that I will use and fold up in my patchwork stash, and then I have the rest of what I didn't use from the full piece of fabric, which I will also use. Needless to say, I'm tired. I really try and be zero waste sustainable maker. And at the end of all of my scrap collecting, I plan on making a zero waste poof where I will sew the exterior and stuff it full of all of my scraps. I'm gonna call it a night. I need to go get some rest and wind down, but I'm excited to dive into this after. I will see you on the flip side when I'm ready to get the sewing machine out. It's a new day. It's so rainy. It's been so gloomy this week, which is a little bit depressing, but it's actually the perfect day to stay inside and sew. I am gonna put together the Midway jacket. I've got all the pieces here ready to go. I also wanna set a little bit of a challenge for myself. So it's currently 11:34, and I would like to put this together and see if I can like it enough to wanna wear it to a grand opening tonight. I've been invited to a grand opening of a thrift store, which is so fun. And I think it'd be cool to wear this bold printed overcoat jacket in an outfit to that opening tonight. So if I can do that, I'm gonna bring you along and show you how I style an outfit with it at the end of this video. Hopefully it is good enough and I feel confident enough in it to wear it. Otherwise, I'll have to find something else. So let's put a little pressure on. Let's do a little challenge. I think it's doable. I have lots of time. I feel like I have lots of time. I hope the light is not terrible all day today, but it's just, like I said, it's very gloomy. So apologies for that in advance. I am a little jealous and a little dreamy right now of like a sewing studio and having a like little she shed, maybe sometime in my future. I am picking thread for the project right now. And I'm just trying to decide if I want to use like a colored top stitch, which is kind of cool, but is that going to be too much? Or do I just want to use like a taupe? There's like a darker, maybe like a darker neutral would be nice to contrast. That could be kind of cool. Do I use a light yellow, or do I use just like a neutral to like blend in with the cream but then pop on the other ones? I just don't know. I got brown. That's too dark. Okay, I need to decide. Okay, surprise, surprise. I'm just gonna use a natural cream kind of taupe color. Like I'm looking at the pattern pieces and the color is kind of like a lot more prevalent than I initially thought on this fabric. So I'm gonna stick with a neutral thread. The instructions for this pattern are really well laid out. Like I'm really impressed with the illustration and just like the instruction level. So I'm excited to actually follow along. I think it's gonna be nice and easy to put together. Also back on the telepathy tapes. So I'm gonna listen to that while I put this jacket together. Step one of the instructions is to stay stitch the neckline on the pieces. So I'm gonna do that first, and then I have to go and iron on interfacing, which you already know by now I love so much. I also just wanted to ask while I'm figuring this out, for all of you people who are watching that do make your own things, or are sewists or hobbyists, or maybe you're more intensive than that and you make things for like to sell, what do you do with the things that you make that you aren't like so proud of or don't really care to keep or wear? I don't know. I have stuff that I've collected and that I've made over the years that is really cool, but like not my best work and I'm not the most proud of it. And I also then in turn don't wear it or use it. And I have it kind of collecting and I'm not sure what to do with that stuff, or those like, they're not even work in progresses. They're just things that I don't know what to do with. So if you are someone who makes things and feel like telling me what you do with your things, I would love to know. I've thought about like repurposing certain fabrics that I like or repurposing certain things that I've made, but I don't know, taking them apart doesn't seem right either. I feel stuck. I don't know what to do about that. So here's the thread that I'm thinking of top stitching. So like you can see on the yellow, kind of is a little bit more blended in, but then it's a bit more contrasty on the cream. There was a time when I would have skipped the stage stitching of the neckline. And I was just thinking about this while I was doing it, that as a beginner sewist, I would have just skipped over that and been like, this seems stupid. Why do I need to do that? But these days I'm trying to just slow down and read into the process and do things slowly and properly and with more intention, because then hopefully I will have things that I don't want to throw out or things that I do want to wear and use, and I don't end up with like a pile of things that I've made that I don't love and I'm not proud of. So I think the little details matter. Ironing on the interfacing like the goodest little girl. I think I thrifted this interfacing, putting together the front panels first. This circle is almost a circle. Do I compensate and move this? Yeah, I have to. And the front panel where the circles did not line up. I couldn't make it work, which is okay. It's fine. Again, I'm not going to be bothered, but these are the little details that could drive someone nuts. And I'm a little sad. I just don't think I want to pick it out, and I don't think I have enough room to move it over to line up. So anyways, it's okay. Back panel done. Gonna iron the seam and press it up towards the neckline. I'm also really wondering now at this point what this fabric was before, because I know I thrifted it from like the fabric area, but I think it was probably a tablecloth or like a drop cloth, which is cool because it wasn't curtain, it didn't have curtain holes in it or hoops, so I think it was probably a tablecloth or a drop cloth, but it's in really good shape. Working on the pocket flaps now. So as this project progresses, I'm more and more nervous about what the pieces are gonna look like all together. I don't know if I've mentioned this yet on any of my videos, but my regular day job is as a designer. So I have a design studio that I've had open for over 11 years where we build brands and websites and do marketing and UX UI design. I also have my own software company. So that's my regular day job. So it's still in the creative realm, but this is also a really nice hands-on physical outlet for me and my creativity. Pocket flaps. I am trying to now be more intentional about how I'm going to put the pockets together. So I'm looking at what's going to be the top pocket. These are the pocket flaps. This is kind of the way the top pocket flaps are going to be no matter what. So we're going to keep those that way. Now I need to figure out which placement I want to use for the top and bottom of the pockets and how I want that to look. Ooh, I think that's better. Yeah, I think I like this the most. So this will be somewhere here, and I think I like that contrast together. I saw a really cool tattoo on Instagram the other day, and it was like a ruler on the inside of your finger so that when you're ironing things and sewing, you could just measure with your finger. So, okay, it's time for us to pin the pockets to the front panels. So we're back to my favorite pins here. Okay, I need to talk about the button pockets on the instructions of this pattern. So everything in the pattern is reading really great. The plackets are a bit confusing. What we did was we folded one of these hems to the wrong side, 1.5 centimeters, and then pressed it, and then you flip it and fold it 3.5 centimeters to the right side so that you have this placket when you turn it inside out. And it makes this like really nice clean edge with the hem once we go around and hem it. So that's great. And the hem is like a double roll as well. That all looks nice and clean. The instructions show that happening on one side. It showed that happening on the other side with the folding in to the 1.5 centimeters, but it doesn't say that you have to do that on both. And now I'm realizing that I'm pretty sure you have to do the placket on both sides, which is why there's fusing on both sides. Like, I think that makes sense in my brain. The instructions also tell you can put the buttons on either side of the front panels, whatever your preference is. If you want the buttons down the left and the holes on the right, or vice versa. That is leading me to believe that we also need to do this flipped hem placket on the other side as well, so it's mirrored. And oh, it's hurting my brain to think about that, but I almost missed that step. So just in case you're making this as well, it doesn't specifically or explicitly say to do this placket on both sides of the jacket. I'm gonna do that and hope for the best and think that that's the right way to do it. I am pinning the sleeves to the body, and I'm just sitting here kind of like thinking back to when I first started sewing and just how it's really cool to come in my kind of sewing journey, come so far as to know how to problem solve certain things. Like this pattern had a couple little snags that I ran into where I was a bit confused, but because I've been doing this and practicing now for as long as I have, which hasn't been terribly long, it's not been like a lifelong journey, but I was able to kind of like troubleshoot on my own, whereas before it would have totally made me paralyzed and like stuck and probably messed something up with the pattern, which would have been very frustrating for me. I'm just happy with being able to understand how patterns go together now and like how to troubleshoot certain things if I don't understand how a pattern works, like those plackets or even like attaching these sleeves. Like that used to be such a mind pretzel for me to try and figure out, how do you put right sides together of a sleeve? How do you make pants so that the legs join together? Like, it's just nice to be able to see progress in your craft and say like, ooh, I'm like proud of myself for just understanding and being better today than I was a while ago. Last step, we're almost done. It is 4:20. I have a little bit of time to spare, but I would like to eat something before I go. But my last step is just to put my tag in, my Threads and Thrift Studio tag. And I'm gonna put a size medium tag into this jacket. I have linked below the sew-in labels that I buy just for the sizing. So I'm just gonna put these in to the back neckline of the jacket. I am really excited to try this on for you, so let's get this in so that I can do a try on and get ready for this grand opening. Okay, I'm done the Midway jacket. The sun came out. I really want to go for a walk soon and I still want to eat, and it's 4:30. That took longer than I thought it would, but I also dilly-dallied a lot. I did take my time trying to figure out certain spots. The pattern overall was really, really well done, well illustrated. There was a couple of those little things that I would just pay attention to when you're making, you know, the button plackets. And honestly, collars are really intimidating for me in jackets usually, and that collar went on really well. It was just really well designed. I think overall the jacket is just really nicely designed. The tulip sleeves are great. So let me try it on so I can show you. I did go and change into my jeans. A couple people have mentioned that they want to see my outfits more. So I'm going to try and do some like more montage-y bits and pieces of the clothes that I make and the things that I make so that you can see how I would style them. So let me put this on. Let me show you the grand reveal. Wow, this is so cute. I love how boxy it is. I made a size F, I think I said, and I told you that my sizing was an E. I think because of the way this is oversized, I actually might have just made the E from the beginning. I would say if you're gonna make this, stay true to your measurements, not upsizing if you don't want it to be too oversized, because this is quite oversized, but I actually really like it. So I'm gonna put the buttons on still. I haven't put the buttons on. I am gonna use Carly B's tutorial for hand sewn buttons. So if you haven't followed Carly B, she's absolutely one of my favorite YouTubers. And she has a really great tutorial on how to do hand sewn buttons. And I'm just like not that confident with my machine and doing buttons, and I'm sure I could figure it out and get the hang of it. I've just never been a fan of it. And so I found her tutorial, and it's just really a nice way to sit down to put like Netflix or a show on or a movie and hand stitch your buttonholes and then put your buttons on. So I will pick out some buttons and show you that when it's finished. I would call this pattern more advanced. I wouldn't say this is like necessarily beginner friendly, but the instructions, like I said, are very well laid out and well illustrated, as long as you just pay attention to some of those things that you might have to problem solve a little bit along the way. And yeah, it's just a really nice boxy jacket that I'm gonna wear tonight to this grand opening. Thank you for being here, and please make sure you subscribe. Check out the links below as well. I'm really looking forward to some more projects coming up and some more thrifting. So yeah, subscribe, like, and share with a friend. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. Bye!